university watchdog statistics, right, young people from affluent areas are 6 times more likely to get places at the most selective universities. And as a result, top universities have now been told to significantly increase the number of places available for disadvantaged students and to look at the way applications are considered. One scheme trying to help to do that is called the Access Project, a charity that helps pupils from disadvantaged backgrounds with their application and training, and they're quite successful. Last year, 61% of students involved with the charity got a place at a university that's in the top third of the league tables. So I want to find out now what they're doing that's so successful, and what more can be done to get people from disadvantaged backgrounds, and by that what I mean is people where they're born, where they live, not holding them back from achieving their potential. To do that, I've got 2 people who've benefited from the charity here with me now. Tahmid Chowdhury, who studied law and is now a trustee for the charity, and also Chethaka, who's in year 13, at that nervous period now, applying to go to university to study medicine. Now, apart from medicine, I know that feeling very, very well there, Chethaka. How are you at the moment? Is it a tricky time with all the applications and all of that?
I'm feeling fine. Got interviews coming up, so I have an interview tomorrow at East Anglia. Revision this half term, so yeah.
Good for you. Good for you there. Revising in half term in February. That was definitely not what I did, but don't tell my mum that, because that's what I said to her that I was doing. So tell us, how are you feeling about this interview tomorrow?
Thankfully, our school's prepared us a lot for it. So there's me and one of my other students, Sadesh, that's going for the interview tomorrow. And our school, they've hired this person from the Top Achiever program to give us some preparation for our application process, so interviews, entrance exams, and also from the Access Project we've had huge loads of things thrown at us. Interview prep, UCAT, BMAT prep, so yeah.
It seems like you seem quite prepared for it and quite relaxed about this interview, and clearly, your school and the Access Project have also helped make you that relaxed.
Greatly. Just through the experiences that we had, so we know what's coming up. We're not going to really be surprised by anything thrown at us. It's just the experience that's helped us a lot.
And how do you feel that has relaxed you, is what I'm trying to say?
So they've stimulated the environment of what an interview would look like. So we have this thing called the multiple mini interviews, MMIs, so they're 7 stations of 7 minutes each, and just having that realistic way of the interview, because I've already had my interview at King's College, and the way that my school and the Access Project prepared for it is very similar to how it actually is in real life. So I knew how to move on to the next station, the time limits, and yeah.
That's interesting, because it's like, well, you would revise for exams, wouldn't you? And you'd revise for your tests at work. But now, through this, it sounds so simple, but you're basically revising for the interview. You're having, what's going to come up, you know what to ask, you know what to say. You're well prepared for it, and that's made you a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, best of luck with all of that. Was that the same for you, Tahmid?
Yeah, it was the same, and I think what the Access Project does and what similar organisations to the Access Project do is replicate what goes on all the time in public schools. It's a culture of expectation that you have at a public school that you don't get going to a state comprehensive, and that's what the Access Project is really focused on. There's a side of it which is sort of giving the practical skills, going through that interview prep and all that sort of stuff, but at the same time it's around trying to build a system and a framework where it's not just that a young person is aspirational, but it's that they can expect to succeed themselves.
I like that last line. Can you say it again?
I can't remember.
You can't remember it, okay. Well, basically, you're like, they expect that they'll be successful as well. And that is a mindset thing, isn't it? Because for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, so to speak, there's that confidence in them isn't built from growing up, is it, as much?
Yeah, I mean, when you're growing up and you come from a modest background of any sort, I think you look around and you don't necessarily see people like you doing certain jobs or going to certain universities or studying certain courses as you might if you came from a more affluent background. And what the Access Project is trying to do is to ensure that there are those role models, there are those systems in place to be able to support people through that, so that it's not just an exception to the rule, it's that what they are achieving, what they're meant to be achieving, and they can fulfill their potential.
So tell me, if you don't mind, I'm prying now, but what are your backgrounds, so to speak?
Sure. So I grew up on an East London council estate. I went to comprehensive primary school and secondary school, had a fantastic education. I would never be able to say that my education wasn't the best that I think it could possibly be, but those around me were very different to those around me that if I had gone to Eton or if I had gone to Harrow or somewhere. And really it's schemes like the Access Project which sort of open your eyes to a new world and give you the tools to be able to go out and reach that.
What about for yourself?
So I was born in Sri Lanka and I came here in 2012 to Lewisham and moved to Plumstead and back to Lewisham, and normal state schools, primary and secondary and sixth form. So, yeah.
So when you were growing up, did you ever think, I want to go to university? Was that something that you always thought was in your reach, or was it something that you've had to have coaxed out of you?
So, I mean, initially primary kind of what I wanted to be a crazy scientist, post-trial, whatever. And when it came to secondary, deciding what career paths I want to go to, university was an option. Obviously, my parents are there to give me some options. School is there. So, university was an option. And
what support has the Access Project given you in terms of building that confidence so you know that you can achieve that?
So the Access Project has given me tutors. So, like, the educational support is there to let me know, if I'm struggling on a subject, I have the support I need to excel in that subject. And also the experiences they've given me have also helped me decide that I want to do medicine and not any other healthcare field. Yeah.
For people listening to this, how do you feel about the fact that you're 6 times more likely, if you're from an affluent area, to get a place at the most selective university? It's almost like the environment that you are born into will dictate how far you will go. Do you think that's fair? And what do you feel needs to be done to change that? Get in touch, let me know. 81869. Tahmid, I'm going to ask you that question now, because you've seen it all around you, haven't you? People who sadly haven't been able to achieve their potential like you. What did they lack and what needs to be there more?
I think there's 2 things. One is there's a genuine attainment gap between people who are from more disadvantaged backgrounds compared to students from more affluent backgrounds. Students who are on the Access Project, for example, are 4 times more likely to get an offer and a place at a top university than their equivalent peers who aren't on the programme. And I think that shows the good work that the Access Project is doing, but it also shows the scale of the issue that they're trying to address. The second is a confidence point. So, I don't think there's a widespread aspiration problem for disadvantaged young people. I think a lot of young people think that university might be an option for them, or skilled work and opportunities might be options for them. It's being given the tools and being given the confidence to be able to actually do what needs to be done to be able to achieve that, and then also having a system that understands the context that they're coming from. So a student, we've been talking about contextual admissions and things like that over the last few months. Students who come from less affluent backgrounds but achieve 3As arguably have performed better than an equivalent student who went to Eton and got 3As, because they've had to face more barriers to be able to achieve that. And I think looking at the system holistically, if the government's talking about levelling up across the country, that's a real issue that they need to look at, is how can we foster an environment where young people from more disadvantaged backgrounds are able to make the most of their opportunities.
Do you think it's about, and feel free to step in here if you need, Chethaka, but do you think it's not about the aspiration of young people at all, but it's actually about helping them to get that leg up that they need, the same way that people at perhaps private schools or in more affluent areas are already getting that privilege?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to a private school, you're given opportunities that you just aren't at a state school. So you're given the interview prep before you go for a medicine interview, an Oxbridge interview. You're given career support in a way that you're not, state schools aren't able to give. So you obviously have an advantage already, and there are lots of charities who are working to bridge that for more disadvantaged students. But also at institution like Eton or Harrow or any of those top private schools, there's a culture that you will succeed, and there's an expectation that you will succeed. And I think what we really need to be doing is start creating that culture amongst state schools and amongst comprehensive schools in particular.
Chethaka, for yourself, what do you worry about? The fact that universities are going to see effectively your background, your school, that sort of thing, and that's going to be held against you?
Kind of, but not really, because I know when they read your personal statement, they can't really see you. And at interviews, there could be some kind of judgment. I'm not too sure, but not really.
No?
Yeah. Not really.
Well, then why do you think it is then that you're more likely, 6 times more likely to get a place at a top uni if you're from an affluent area?
I think it's just the access to opportunities and being exposed to, I don't know, things like Cambridge, Oxford, just going there itself, seeing people like you, and just being exposed to experiences.
Because you went to Cambridge for an interview, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It was an interesting experience. It was quite cold there, as in the temperature, not the people. And because I was lucky enough to have some interview prep by my school for this Cambridge interview, and at the waiting room, I saw people much like myself, lots of multicultural students already at Cambridge, and it seemed quite diverse, not as much
So you didn't feel like it's not somewhere that you didn't belong?
Yeah.
You didn't?
No, I didn't feel like that at all.
Okay, that's good. It's good to know. So were they, being there on that campus, and I've been there, it's very grand, didn't faze you at all or anything like that?
No, not really. So, and that's one other reason that I think not as many people from ethnic backgrounds apply into these top universities, because they have these, I don't know, there's probably some misconceptions about Oxbridge universities.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that, don't they, from ethnic minority backgrounds, do apply.
Yeah.
Because they do want to go to Oxbridge, it's just maybe they're not actually getting accepted.
I think that's definitely part of the problem, because if you're talking about personal statement or an application or an interview, if you come from a disadvantaged background, you're naturally more likely to have less to put into your personal statement. You're not necessarily able to join all these societies. You're not able to do all of this volunteer work. In lots of cases, people are having to work part-time jobs while they're doing their A-levels. So there are just fewer opportunities and touch points that you can put into an application. So it's not that universities are necessarily discriminating against people based on their background, but the system that they're applying within, the context, is almost holding some people back and maybe putting some people off from applying in the first place.
So you yourself got a scholarship, didn't you, to study law at the New College of the Humanities?
Yeah.
What was that like for yourself? And did you ever feel that, you struggled to fit in at all?
The vast majority of my peers at New College of the Humanities went to private school, and when I first went there, I think that it was a challenge, to be honest. It's a different environment. I think a lot of people from our sort of backgrounds have this when, you're in that sort of environment and everyone's talking about their skiing holidays and what cheese they like the best and all that sort of thing. It's not stuff that you necessarily grow up with. But I think what's clear is when you have a passion, when you have talent or whatever you want to call it, that is more important to most people than what your background is. And I ended up having an amazing 3 years at NCH. I was really grateful for my scholarship, which allowed me to go there, and it completely changed my life, as did the Access Project.
Do you think you would have been where you are now if you hadn't have been on the Access Project?
No, I don't think so.
What do you think you'd have been doing? Or
I think it's difficult to say. I think what the Access Project's done is open so many different doors. So I think on one hand, I was tutored in maths when I was doing my A-levels. I don't think I would have got the grade that I did in maths if I hadn't had that tutoring support. But the other thing is being able to think about the world in a different way and sort of be able to look at opportunities in a different way. So some of the decisions I've made, some of the other initiatives that I've done since university, I don't think I would have gone to NCH if it wasn't for the Access Project. So it's had an immense impact on my life and my career, and I'm sure it is for thousands of other kids across the country.
Ruby effectively, her son attends Imperial and thinks there also needs to be support for when they're looking for jobs, because she knows graduates from this background experience difficulties getting a job that reflects their hard work. As you know, as someone who is a graduate, can you attest to what Ruby's saying?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you come from a more affluent background and, or even a middle class background, your family and your networks are going to have more connections for you to be able to make use out of. And that's not the case for people from more disadvantaged backgrounds. These sorts of access opportunities for people going to universities, organisations like the Access Project work at school level because that's where I guess the most difference can be made. And once you get to university, if you can make the grades, a lot of people can become socially mobile as a result of that opportunity. But there's no doubt in my mind that people from more disadvantaged backgrounds still find that more difficult than their better off peers when they're going out into the workforce.
Okay. 11:31 here on The Big Debate. It's been great talking to the pair of you. Best of luck with your interview tomorrow, is it?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and for getting into university as well. You're saying to me off air, but say it again. Which university do you want to go to?
Any that does medicine, really.
While casting your net out wide, I'm sure you'll be successful there. Thank you very much, Chethaka Hewaratne, and also Tahmid Chowdhury, who's a trustee now for the charity at the Access Project.